Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about adoption and attachment styles, and specifically how being adopted really impacts the anxious, preoccupied, but also the fearful avoidant attachment style individuals. So before I dive in, we still have our With You promotion going on. I'll put a link in the description box below. It's for 25% off 3, 6, and 12-month bundles to our all access pass and membership. So let's talk about this here for a moment. This is actually a question I had from one of the members inside of the school. And they said, is there any connection between being adopted and our attachment system? And this person mentioned that they were adopted when they were 2.5 and they're trying to heal their anxious, preoccupied attachment style. And they go on to say, I'm sure where the home we were adopted into plays a role. But, before that, all that way back, can that play a role as well? And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, research shows that we are most deeply programmed in the first 8 years of our lives. And in fact, the first 3 of those 8 years have the most profound impact. Now, the reason for this, there are a few different reasons, but one of the really major reasons that I can share with you is that the subconscious mind is producing mostly alpha and theta brain waves during those first 8 years, and sorry, the mind in general, not just the subconscious mind. And what that creates is sort of a state of hypersuggestibility. Now, what suggestibility really means is like, are we primed to be hypnotized? And when somebody's actually under hypnosis, they are more so in alpha and theta brainwave state. And so you can imagine that our first 8 years of life, we are kind of in a state of light hypnosis. We are sponging everything up and everything in. And because our subconscious mind is sort of this lens that we perceive the world through that's based on our past experiences, then you can imagine that when we go through challenges or traumas or different pain points within that first 8 years of life, especially those first 3, those provide a really large impact on that operating lens. Sometimes the analogy I like to give to people is it's like you're driving in your car and you have your windshield and you keep getting like mud on your windshield, and all those splats of mud can be like representative of a trauma. And the more splats of mud we have on our windshield, the harder it is to see clearly, the more dangerous it becomes to drive, the more unsafe we feel, all these different things. And part of subconscious reprogramming means like cleaning your windshield. And that analogy is for cleaning the filter of the painful programming that exists within the subconscious mind because it's the lens we see and interact with the world through. And so, what you'll see too, if you look into your life a little bit, is often the painful experiences we went through in childhood, the way they made us feel, and what we believed about ourselves because of them and the unmet needs that were there. We are often still experiencing these things over and over and over again, but we're not necessarily realizing because they occur in different forms. So maybe you felt really abandoned in childhood, and then you keep having these like feelings of abandonment in your adult life in all of these different forms, right? But you don't realize that, oh my gosh, this is linked to this childhood story I have about myself. Or maybe you feel like you can't trust people because your trust was broken in childhood. You go through these same types of feelings around that experience, the same types of experiences over and over again, the stories you tell, the unmet needs that are there. And so we have to take a look and be like, what experiences do I keep having on repeat, because my subconscious is actually wired and designed to create a comfort zone and maintain that comfort zone, because it thinks that familiarity equals safety and safety equals survival. What different experiences do I have on repeat, but I don't notice because the external form changes, and it's really the internal form that's on repeat until, of course, we do that reprogramming work. So for the record, absolutely, early childhood adoption has a huge impact on our attachment style. And to the point where it can actually give us some fearful avoidant tendencies because it's actually quite a large trauma. So, anxious preoccupied, of course, is most rooted in real or perceived abandonment. But because there's a huge trauma of grief and loss, even for a young child, um, after being disconnected from a family member like that, then it can create some fearful avoidant tendencies or sort of like dynamics in there. So most likely you're anxious, preoccupied with some fearful avoidant sides, some fearful avoidance, not mannerisms, characteristics is the word I'm looking for, to the person who asked this question. And so, what we really want to be able to do is we have to do the breakdown of the reprogramming. Like, where do I keep abandoning myself? What are the stories I'm telling over and over again about myself? And how can I do the reprogramming work on those stories or core wounds? Things like I don't belong, I don't matter, I'm alone, I will be abandoned, I am excluded. These big core wounds, we have to change that narrative in the relationship to ourselves. And most importantly, we have to stop doing that to ourselves. So, for example, you can exclude yourself by not taking yourself into consideration when you make a decision. Somebody says, "Oh, can you do my homework for me this weekend?" And if you just say yes, because that's your impulse to people please in order to avoid abandonment, you totally abandon yourself. Like, do you want to do that person's homework? How does that feel for you? So we have to take ourselves into consideration when we make choices, because often anxious preoccupieds, especially if there's an abandonment trauma or an adoption trauma, often it's really common for people to be sort of in this hyper state of self-abandonment. And we heal those splats on our windshield of mud when we change the relationship we have to ourselves internally, because what that does in turn is it changes our subconscious comfort zone. And then we look for new things. We don't accept those old pain points. We have more fulfilling relationships. We are attracted to people who will show up for us in a different way because they represent the familiarity we have in the relationship to ourselves. So you want to make sure you're changing these stories, reprogramming these wounds, meeting your unmet needs, and these will all be major steps towards healing this specific trauma. So I hope this makes lots of sense for anybody who's curious. Thank you so much for such a wonderful question and for sharing. Thank you guys all for being here and for watching. Please let me know any questions you have about adoption, attachment, anything related to attachment trauma in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.